In whatever you do, if in all the prosperity you're getting, if there's no repentance, there's no God's grace there. Okay, let's look at another wonderful topic, and this topic is none other than dangerous gospel many preachers are preaching in this generation. I'm just surprised, like everybody just love to preach about grace without teaching about God's wrath. You know, this same God that have grace is the same God that have wrath. W.A. Tozer, one of my favorite writers, says that in this generation, people teach God's grace without teach God's wrath. People teach God's love without teach God's judgment. Because the same God that have love have judgment. In fact, the same God that have love have wrath. So be careful with the way you submit yourself under preachers in this generation. They preach grace without repentance. That is not grace at all. They preach grace without holiness. They preach grace without righteousness. They preach grace as the prosperity, like prosperity, earthly prosperity is the sign of grace grace of God upon your life. In fact, all of this, it's very, very wrong. In fact, let's look at Romans. Romans chapter 6, verse 1 and 2. Let me shock you. Let me show you what the Bible says. What shall we say then? Are we to continue in sin that grace may abound? By no means. How can we who died to sin still live in it? By no means, no. Paul give a hypothetical no to this. You cannot continue living in sin because grace is there. No, that's a very, very dangerous gospel. Be careful with those kind of gospel. And on the other hand, you also need to be careful with those who preach legalism. Legalism in church. The definition of legalism in church. You can have definition in various places, but when it comes to church, these are people who think they are saved by works. The number of works you do, that's how you are justified. In another way around, those who think they are justified by works. Let's look at Ephesians. I don't want to talk much about this one because Ephesians is there. I don't even know how many people read that. Ephesians chapter 2 from verse 8 to 9. Verse 8 and 9. For by grace you have been saved through faith.